Sabu, the suicidal, genocidal, homicidal madman. My cat is about to knock the thing that controls my lights off the footstool. Real name Terry Brunk, the nephew to the original Sheik, who trained him in the ring originally as a technical wrestler. Sabu decided to become a wrestler at 19 after going to a party and some people started shooting. They shot one of his friends, and then Sabu went after the guy with the gun and took the guy down. But the guy shot Sabu in the face, and when Sabu recovered, that's when he decided he was going to become a wrestler. And he was originally trained by the Sheik as a technical wrestler and wrestled in the Sheik's Big Time Wrestling out of Michigan. Now, it wasn't until he met Rob Van Dam. He was training Rob Van Dam's friend Samson, and Samson brought Rob Van Dam in to be trained, that Sabu's life changed forever. See, Sabu knew the technical stuff, but Rob Van Dam knew how to do the flips and stuff. So while Sabu was training Van Dam to do the technical stuff, Van Dam was training Sabu to do the flips and stuff. And while the Sheik would watch them wrestle, they'd do the technical stuff, but as soon as the Sheik would turn away, they'd do the crazy hardcore wrestling and flips and stuff. So when Sabu originally went to Japan, to FMW in Japan in the early 90s, Sabu asked his uncle how he should wrestle. And his uncle told him, wrestle like I wasn't watching. His uncle said, I saw you wrestling in the backyard with Van Dam, like when I wasn't supposed to be watching. That's how you should wrestle. And that became Sabu's style. His signature style. The jumps, the flips, the hardcore stuff. In this original tour of FMW, he did over a dozen barbed wire rope matches. And him and the Sheik versus another tag team were in the first, I don't remember if it was called a flaming barbed wire rope match. It was called something like that, where they put the barbed wire ropes up, then covered them with sheets, poured gasoline on them, and lit them on fire. Needless to say, everybody got out of the ring in about a minute because it just got too hot. Sabu would then go on to WCW, where he then learned to dislike Ric Flair. Sabu said that he'd go around and shake everybody's hand, and Ric Flair would turn away. Or Ric Flair would come and shake everybody's hand, and he wouldn't shake Sabu's hand. So Sabu just didn't like Ric Flair. Now, of course, this adds added to the other probably 300 or 400 wrestlers who dislike Ric Flair. Then he was brought into ECW, but not by Paul Heyman. One of his friends called and said he should call, it was originally called Eastern Championship Wrestling, and it was run by Todd Gordon. And they told him to call Todd Gordon because he was paying $500 a week. Well, Sabu was shy and didn't ask for $500. He only asked for $300. And Todd told him to come on in. And this was the same week that Paul Heyman took over. And on these shows, when Sabu wrestled, the audiences were packed in there and the ratings were up. But when Sabu wasn't on the card, the audience wasn't as big. So what Paul Heyman did was he put Sabu at the beginning of the card when he was on the cards and let everybody else wrestle like Sabu, which Sabu took offense to because when the Sheik was wrestling, nobody else wrestled like the Sheik. of course, the Sheik ran the promotion so he could do what he wanted to. So Sabu thought no one else should use tables. No one else should use chairs. But Paul Heyman didn't think that way. He also originally came out in a madman gimmick, wearing a Hannibal Lecter mask and being tied to a gurney and trying to escape, and always breaking a table. Of course, he didn't like this because he was tired before he began the match. Now, Sabu would later go to Japan again after winning the ECW World, Television, and Television titles, and after getting his neck broke by Chris Benoit and having nerve damage in it. In a match where Chris Benoit went to flip him in a belly-to-back suplex, and Sabu, instead of landing on his belly, tried to flip around in midair and land on his back, and landed directly on his head. Now, the thing is, Sabu only took 2 weeks off and came right back and was still teaming with the Tasmaniac, who later became Taz, by the way, against Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko. Now, Sabu later left ECW and went to All Japan and somebody else in Japan who I can't remember. Sorry, I tried to learn all this in 2 days because he had a career going in Japan that was bigger than the US. And then initially they wanted to bring him into WWF as the Sultan, but they wanted the Iron Sheik to be his manager. Now, Sabu tried to talk them into the original Sheik, who was his uncle, but WWF said no. And Sabu, out of respect for his uncle, because the Iron Sheik and the original Sheik do not like each other at all, Sabu turned them down, and the Sultan was originally given to a young Rikishi. So then Sabu went back to ECW, feuded with Rob Van Dam a little bit before starting to team with them, and continued his feud with the Tasmaniac, who is now known as Taz, winning a second ECW World Championship and FTW Championship when Taz pulled Sabu on top of him because Taz had the World Championship and didn't feel he needed the FTW Championship anymore, and would win the tag team titles with Rob Van Dam. After he left ECW in 2000, because Paul Heyman wasn't paying him, he went on to various indie promotions around the country before going back to FMW in Japan and working their final show before they went bankrupt. He then went to TNA, getting into a feud with Raven and having the first not Monsters Ball match, the first dang, I can't even remember what the match is called. It was the first barbed wire massacre match in TNA history against the Abyss, which Sabu won. He would then wrestle for TNA on and off for a couple years before going to the WWF as part of the ECW brand coming back. At One Night Stand, he wrestled Rey Mysterio, and it was declared a no contest after Sabu DDT'd Rey Mysterio through a table, which was the biggest bullshit in wrestling history. That would never end an ECW match. They'd just say, get your ass up, keep going. So as you could see from that match on ECW One Night Stand, it was definitely not ECW. Sabu said that he did not like the WWF at this point. One, Vince McMahon wanted everyone to kiss his ass, and Sabu refused. Two, they wanted to tell Sabu what to do in the ring. And Sabu did not want to do that. Or they wanted Sabu to tell them what he was going to do in the ring. And Sabu did not want to do that. He wanted to call it in the ring. So Sabu left WWF shortly after WrestleMania shortly like pay-per-view 2 after WrestleMania, when the ECW originals faced the new ECW New Breed or whatever they were called. Then he went back to TNA. No, then he wrestled on the independent scene for a little bit, and then he went back to TNA for the TNA ECW reunion show called Hardcore Justice, where EV 2.0 or Elite something or Elite version 2.0, which is the ECW originals, faced Fortune at the Hardcore Justice pay-per-view, and he hung around for a while until eventually he was released. Then he went back on the independent scene, wrestling various matches, before coming back to TNA and really not doing anything in TNA this time. Then he announced his retirement in 2021, that he probably wouldn't wrestle anymore. Well, in 2023, he appeared in All Elite Wrestling for a few matches. And finally, in just 3 weeks ago, he wrestled his retirement match against Joey Janela in a barbed wire rope match, which, let me explain what happened in this match. Apparently, the day of the show, Sabu didn't look like he was coming. His back was aching because he had massive back problems, probably from dropping that big Arabian facebuster for 35 years. And he was having leg problems. So Joey Janela's freaking out that Sabu's not going to come, and they booked him for this match, and they announced it, and they're going to have to give all the fans a refund. So Joey Janela says, go give him Kratom, which is an opioid painkiller that is really, really strong. I've actually never been on it. Highest opioid painkiller I've been on is Vicodin. And trust me, Vicodin makes you high. So they go and give this to Sabu, and then Sabu shows up, and he's just bouncing around like a rabbit on cocaine. And so they go out to do this match, and Sabu takes a couple hard hits into the barbed wire when he misses Joey Janela. And finally, he takes a hit into the barbed wire, and the barbed wire gives way, and he lands headfirst into a couple chairs. And he is out cold. He is unconscious. The refs are like, we're going to have to end the match. And then the Sandman's music hits. And Sabu hops up like he thinks it's 96. And they finish the match. Now, Kratom can cause liver damage, kidney damage, hallucinations. I mean, there's just a whole list of stuff why you shouldn't be taking this medicine. So they finish the match. Sabu goes home. The fans are happy. Joey Janela's happy, and Sabu drops dead 3 weeks later. Now, we don't have a cause of death yet, but I'm sure that didn't help. Now, let me tell you a happier story. I don't want to end on, oh my God, Joey Janela killed Sabu. Let me tell you about the first time I seen Sabu. I was watching ECW at home because I'd heard of ECW from my buddy Nate, because his favorite wrestler, Rob Van Dam, wrestled on it. And I seen this guy, and he was jumping around the ring, jumping off chairs, crashing through tables, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. and his name was Sabu. And he had his mouth taped shut, because this is when he had the broken jaw. His mouth was taped shut. And like, he has a broken jaw, but he still has a. I thought, who the hell is this psychopath? That's when I first saw Sabu, and I became an instant fan of his. So rest in peace, Sabu. Go put Jesus through a table. Join me later in the week for the convent.